Hey folks, y'all ever want to go cruising down the street in your six foe? No, I don't mean an Impala. I mean a 6,400-pound battle rhino. And on this episode of Dragons and Dice, we're going over custom whips of the D&D world in an episode I'm calling Mythical Mounts and Where to Find Them. Hint, they're right behind the DM screen. Welcome to Dragons and Dice. Y'all ever get tired of that ranger riding around on the brown bear through town, or the paladin that gets a horse every time they whistle? I know, it's just not fair, right? Well, you're in luck, because today I have 10 exotic mounts that you can add to your D&D game, and a small mechanical add-on for how I like to use them. And I'm going to make a note here. I made these for a 4 to 5 session long shot that we were running as a flashback in the campaign at our home table, and the party was already level 10, so these mounts are fairly strong. I did this for a reason. They were going to be traveling a lot during this long shot of 4 or 5 sessions, and I wanted them to have a cool way of getting around that could kind of speed up the travel aspect of the campaign that we were running so that we could get to the storyline for this flashback. If you need to tone these down for your home game, like if you're in first tier of play, you can just like half the damage, half the HP. Just do it accordingly. I have these mounts set to be at level 6. So they've got, 6d10 in hit die. You can knock that in half, cut their HP down, cut down the damage they do by a die or two, depending on what you want. But just customize it for your game, and I'm sure they'll work out great for you. And what I did when I made these was I went ahead and made about 3 or 4 more than the number of player characters at the table. And then I let the party roll, not initiative rolls. They don't get any ads, but just straight roll, and top person gets first pick. But I did make extras. That way, whoever goes last isn't just, stuck with the leftovers. They still have 4 or 5 to pick from. And I think that's a good way to work out so that everybody can be happy and enjoy the, kind of special thing you're doing for a few sessions. Or if this is something you add to your whole campaign, you don't want to be stuck with oh, I got the crappy mount and everyone else got awesome stuff. Keep that in mind. Make extras. It's not that big a deal. Or you can just take these templates, add them in. If you got a 5-person table, that gives, 10 for you to pick from. So first, let's go over the mechanics that I'm using for these, and these are kind of like a dumbed down combat mechanic because I didn't want these mounts to be like, oh, now we have a 10-person PC table because there's 5 mounts and 5 players. So they only get to use the mounts, special abilities, and bonus actions if they're riding them or in a few unique situations. But it's not to add extra characters to your table. It's just to add in the flavor of the mount. And if you want to try out some mounted combat, they have some really cool special abilities for that. So let's hop in. For each mount, I gave them 51 HP. That's a level 6 D10 average roll on all that stuff with like a +3 con. That's how I came up with that number. You can change that to whatever works for you, but that seemed like a good base. I gave them 15 natural armor unless it's specified otherwise in their stat blocks. They all got, like I said, 6 D10 hit die, and each mount has 50 speeds. And I didn't stat these all the way out. I just gave them saving throws because that's really all they need. You don't need a whole nother stat block for players to have to dig through mid-combat to figure out if their mount can do this or how much save they have on that fireball. So I just gave them saves. I gave them +4 to strength, +3 to con, +5 to dex, 0 to int and charisma. Charisma, that's a good word. So that's a +0 to charisma and then a +5 in wisdom. My theory is they got proficiency in wisdom and dexterity saving throws, as a lot of monsters do. I also made it so that mounts take half damage from spells that require saves. So if they make the save, they'll only take quarter damage, and that they're immune to fear and charm. And the way I flavored this is that each mount has a collar on it that lets the rider communicate with it, and it also kind of bolsters the resolve of the mount so that it's not susceptible to as much status effects. And then to hop upon your big-ass steed, bonus points if you get that Tenacious D reference, you can take 10 foot of your speed, and to dismount takes 5 foot of your speed, and you can also only do one of those per turn. So you can't hop up, hop down, hop up, hop down, My theory for this was that I wanted the players to not be able to exploit the movement of their mount, jump off. You got a monk and a rogue, they can now dash as a bonus action and then run, and they've moved 200 feet in one round. I was trying to avoid that, so I wanted to take some of the movement away if you have to drop off and drop back on, and that way it kind of doesn't get exploited to kind of break your game. These are meant to be fun, not a meta game, we're gonna break the world with them. So that was my theory on that. I also wanted to factor in a mechanic that if you took a bunch of damage while you're on the mount, it had the possibility of unseating you. And for this, the way I worked it is that if you get hit for 20% of your current HP, you have to make a dex save that's equal to 1/2 the damage. Minimum save of 10 works kind of like a constitution saving throw, except with dex, or be unseated from your mount. And if this happens, you fall directly off away from the damage that you took, and you take 1d6 fall damage, and you're now prone. And the mounts, they also won't take turns unless you're using either their special abilities or their bonus action abilities if you're not riding them. So they are basically just for like the flavor of movement, and then the special abilities they have, they don't get extra turns for you to use. I did add in that your mount can also intercept attacks for you, and it can do this 3 times. And like I said, this was for a long shot, so there's only going to be 5 sessions. So this was 3 times in total. And after that, the mount would take and lose trust in you, and it ran back to the stables. If you're using these in your normal campaign, you might want to leave this ability out or change it to where they can't use the mount for a couple days while it recovers from its wounds. Either way, flavor it however you like. The way I'd done it in this long shot was the Elven King had sent them out on a mission, and he had this fancy stable of exotic beasts that he used for mounts for his, honor guard. And so they went to the stables, they each got to pick a mount, work it into whatever works for your campaign, and I'm sure everyone will enjoy it. One other ability I have is that, say your mount's low on health, if you are riding your mount or you are within 5 feet of it, you can also intercede and take the damage for your mount. Like if you're worried about your mount getting KO'd, you can step in front of that firebolt, and instead of it hitting your battle rhino, it hits you instead. That you can do anytime you want, but it does take your reaction for that turn. But that's it for the mechanics that I have. Let's hop in and check out what 10 exotic mounts we've built. Number 1, we're going to go with the giant ram, and its special ability, and all the special abilities for these mounts can be done once a day, is going to be a headbutt battle. And your ram is going to bleat at a creature, taunting it into a 1v1 headbutt battle, just like mountain rams do. And the creature will have disadvantage on any attacks against anyone but you. This is going to last for 1d6 worth of rounds, so you'll roll that when you use this as special ability. And each round will be a strength battle, but you get to roll with advantage, and the loser takes 1d12 of damage each round. And your strength check for this battle is a +5. The bonus action attack for the ram, and you can do each of the bonus action abilities 4 times a day. They're based off proficiency bonus if you want to scale that back. Like I said, we were level 10 for these, so that's where the 4 times a day came from. If you're first tier, do it with 2 or 3, depending on where you're at. But you can bash a creature for 1d12 +5 damage, +7 to hit, and it pushes a large creature back up to 10 feet. It knocks medium or smaller creatures prone, and on a crit, it stuns the target for 1 turn. The giant ram also has a passive ability that while mounted, you can't be slowed by terrain or magical effects that are on the ground, and you can climb almost vertical areas as long as the ground is solid. Number 2 will be the levitation carpet. This carpet doesn't actually fly, it just always hovers 2 feet off the ground. And the special attack, once a day, while not mounted, you can send your carpet to encase someone within its range. It wraps around the upper part of their torso and head, and this gives them the blind and silence conditions. And on their turn, they can try to break free. It'll be a DC 16 strength check. This works on creatures of any size up to gargantuan. If they don't break free, roll a d8 and the creature will panic and run in that direction as it can't see or do anything. And 1 is always directly away from you, and then just go around the compass in eighths. The bonus action ability is called Magical Rest, and as a bonus action, you can spend 1 of your hit die and roll it twice to heal yourself or someone else that is in range of 5 feet of you, and this only costs 1 of your hit die. So it lets you use hit die in battle and at a half cost, basically. And the passive ability is, if you take the levitation carpet as your special mount, you can't be unseated from this mount, and you cannot take fall damage as long as the mount is close to you, not super duper far away, as the mount will rush to save you and land underneath you. Number 3 will be the battle rhino, and its special ability is called Unstoppable Charge, and you charge forward in a straight line up to your movement speed and dealing damage, knocking people to both sides as you run through them. This is unresistible, and you deal 20 damage to every creature in your path, and the last one that you hit takes double damage as you impale it on your rhino horn. The bonus action for this is called a horn launch, and you make an attack roll as your bonus action to a creature that's in melee range. It's 1d12 plus 5, plus 7 to hit, and on a hit, the target is large or smaller is flipped into the air, where you, as the mounted character, can make your normal attacks for that turn with advantage. The passive ability for the rhino is that it is thick-skinned, and your rhino mount can intercede and take damage for you 5 times before it will try to flee to the stable. Number 4 will be a woolly mammoth, and its special ability is called the Tusk Barrage, and your mammoth is going to swing its head back and forth, dealing massive damage to creatures in a 15-foot cone in front of you. Each creature in the area must make a DC 18 dexterity save or take 4d10 bludgeoning damage. On a save, they're going to take half, and at the end of this, you get to pick one target and make an attack roll plus 7 to hit, and you can flip that target over your head where it lands 20 feet behind you, taking 2d6 fall damage. This ability takes your action for the turn. The mammoth's bonus action attack will be Concussive Stomp, and you're going to deal 1d12 plus 5 thunder damage in a 5-foot area around you. A DC 14 dex save as you rise up and smash your front feet into the ground and send a shockwave out. And this is going to push all creatures that fail that save back from you 10 feet. And they'll take, if they pass the save, they aren't pushed and they only take half damage. The woolly mammoth's passive ability is called High Ground, and you get plus 1 to hit with spells and ranged weapons, and all weapons that aren't short. So daggers, hand axes, short swords, and stuff like that, you can't actually attack with, as the mammoth is so high up in the ground that you can't reach over and hit with them. So something to keep in mind if you're using this one, but if you're a ranged character, the plus 1 to hit's really nice as you have the high ground. For number 5, we have the Armored Polar Bear, and this one gets a special armor class. It gets 18 as it's wearing plate armor, and its special attack will be called Enraged Maw, and as your attack action, you attack with Reckless Abandon, and you make an attack roll with advantage. You get plus 7 to hit. On a hit, you do 8d4 in damage, and any dice that rolls a 4, you get to reroll as a d6. Any of those d6s that roll a 6, you get to reroll as a d8. All the way up until you run out of dice, and you add up all the damage. So a 4 counts as 4, and then when you re-roll the 6, whatever you get on it counts also. And if you basically add up every dice that you get to roll for the whole time, and that's going to be how much damage this Enraged Maul does. You are exhausted after this attack, and your polar bear can't do a bonus action attack on the next round. For your bonus action attacks, you can activate a cone of cold in a 5-foot radius around you, and all creatures in that area are going to take 2d6 in cold damage. It's a DC 15 con save. They'll take half on a save. And a creature, when they are in the area for the first time, they take this damage, or if they start their turn in the area, they will take that damage. But they can only take the damage once per turn. And for speed of play, roll 2d6 for the whole turn one time. Don't roll it for each monster. Like if you decide to dash through a bunch of people, we're not going to roll 40 d6s as you run through a group of orcs. Just roll the damage once. That's what applies for the whole round. The passive ability for the polar bear is called the Bloody Maw. And if your polar bear has attacked something during the day, all creatures, if they want to attack it or you in melee range, have to make a DC 12 Wisdom save, or they are frightened of your bear's bloody visage, and they will have to go attack someone else. So, if your bear's gnawed on stuff, it looks really terrifying. If you've ever seen a polar bear after it's eaten something, it's quite gruesome. And so, if you want to attack that, you've got to have some resolve. Number 6 will be a giant elk, and its special attack ability will be called Scoop and Slaughter. And in this, the elk charges forward, and all enemies in its path, up to 6, must make a DC 18 dex save or be caught in the antlers. and afterwards, you can make one sweeping melee attack that hits all the enemies, dealing doubled weapon damage, and any creatures that die are decapitated. The remaining creatures are dropped 5 feet and fall prone as the elk swings its antlers around, and this takes your action for the turn. The elk's bonus action attack will be the sweeping antler, and you are basically going to do a cleave attack. It'll be 1d12 plus 5 bludgeoning damage, plus 7 to hit, and this will hit the creature that's within 5 feet of you, and it'll do half damage to any creature that's within 5 feet of your target. So basically a cleave, but it can hit multiple creatures. And the elk's passive ability will be constant vigilance, and the elk is always on alert, and you cannot be surprised while you are mounted on it. Number 7 will be the giant lizard, and its special ability will be the gross grabby lizard tongue. And your giant lizard is going to shoot its tongue out and hit one creature. It must succeed on a DC 20 dexterity save, or it will be grappled by your lizard and its speed reduced to 0. And for the remainder of your turn only, the monster will be under the effect of the hold monster spell and is considered grappled. This means that you can auto crit on a hit and that you're going to get to roll with advantage as the lizard has the grappler feat for whatever reason. But on a miss, nothing's going to happen, and this works as your bonus action for the round. The lizard's bonus action ability is called the poison bite, and it's going to be 1d12 plus 5 in damage, plus 7 to hit. And on a hit, the target must make a DC 15 con save or take 2d6 poison damage and suffer the poison condition. On a save, it will take half and no poison condition. Your giant's lizard passive ability will be called Chameleon's Deception, and you get advantage on all stealth checks while riding. Number 8 will be the Rishardian War Charger, and its special ability is called the Charge of the Valorous, and your warhorse will charge forward in a straight line for its full movement speed. Anyone that is hit by your horse takes hoof damage of 2d10 and must make a DC 18 dex save. On a fail, they are not prone, and they take 1d8 as they get stomped. If they make the save, they take half the first damage, and they do not fall prone and aren't stopped, they're just pushed to the side. But you can also, while you're doing this, make 3 melee attacks to creatures that come within your range. So as the horse is charging straight forward and there's going to be creatures to the side, you can make 3 melee attacks. You have to roll for each hit, and this doesn't add your damage modifiers to it, so no plus strength or anything like that. You do get your plus to hits, but it's just straight weapon damage die, and this takes your action for the turn. Its special ability is an add-on attack. And you can do this 4 times a day like the rest of them, and it's called a hoof smash. And it's going to deal 1d8 damage added to a hit if you attack while mounted on it. And this kind of works like an old school 5e smite. It doesn't require anything. It's just an add-on that you get to do on a hit 4 times a day. And the passive ability is called Charger's Presence. And you don't provoke opportunity attacks while mounted from this creature that are large or smaller. Okay, coming down the home stretch, we're to number 9, and that's right, it's time for an owlbear. You knew there would be one on the list. Its special ability is going to be called I Wish I Could Fly. And for this, your owlbear leaps forward up to its speed, spreads its wings, and then crashes in a thunderous feather flop. Where it lands, it hits all creatures in a 10-foot radius and deals 4d10 damage and knocks all creatures in the area prone. They must make a DC 18 dex save. Creatures that pass the save take half damage and they're just pushed to the edge of the radius. And if you target it to land directly on one creature, it's going to roll that save with disadvantage, and on a fail, take an extra d8 as that owlbear belly flops on it. This takes your action for the turn. The bonus action attack is going to be called Owlbear's Rage, and it's going to let out a piercing hooty howl, and it causes you to have +2 to hit and +2 to damage rolls for 1 turn. And the force of the howl will push any creature that is large or smaller 5 feet away from you. No save, it just happens. And then the passive ability is called Owlbear's Wisdom, and you get advantage on perception checks while you're mounted on your owlbear. And for number 10, we have the Armored Battle Corgi. And some kooky wizard cast Enlarge on this, and it never went away. And so you have a Corgi the size of an elephant. And its special ability is called Friend of Fairies. And you summon a fairy for each member in the party and for their mounts. And these fairies will heal each of them for 2d8 plus 5. And then they will cast Fairy Fire on the entire group of enemies on the battlefield for 2 rounds. This will be a DC 18 dex save for them to avoid being, lit up with that fairy fire. The bonus action of this is going to be the Charming Baru, and you can cast Charm in a 10-foot radius sphere, and all creatures must make a DC 15 Wisdom save or be charmed for 1 minute, and any creature that fails the save by more than 5 will be affected by the Hold Monster spell on this. The passive ability for this will be called Dander Bomb, and invisible creatures within 20 feet of you will be revealed as they sneeze from the cloud of dander that all your fluffy corgi fur releases out into the air. So that's it for the 10 specialty mounts that I've made. You could do all kinds of other things. You could do, a direwolf matriarch or an axe beak, or if you're playing something prehistoric, you could have dinosaur mounts, which would be freaking awesome if you're asking me. But it's just a bunch of fun flavor to add in. These will be easy to take away when you need the party to be back on foot. You can just set up situations where like the mounts can't go into here or whatever. Like it's too small of entry door. You're getting on a ship and they can't go to that island if you want to separate the party from their mounts for a while. But this is some fun flavor, makes it really interesting, adds some new fun stuff to combat. And I just think it's really awesome, the flavor of the thought of having an awesome war mount, because who doesn't love all these things? Well, folks, that's it for this episode of Dragons and Dice. Thanks for tuning in and spending your time listening to me go on about my favorite TTRPG, Dungeons and Dragons. And like always, anytime you could leave a review, a follow, or a like wherever you get your podcast, it'd be greatly appreciated as it helps with exposure of a new show. We're also now on Instagram. You can check us out in the link below. And until next time, may your DMs be kind, may your D20s roll high. Bye.